But it's very interesting because how much time in a year do you work just to pay taxes? This is an amazing measure. And you can see that, for instance, in Europe, we used to have 7 months. We used to work 7 months just to pay taxes, you see. And now we are on the 8th, 9th month in most European countries after the COVID. This is horrible. And people don't realize because everything keeps going. We pay more taxes, but we don't realize we are doing it.
I don't know where in Europe you are.
How much in Africa?
Here in the UK,
how much in Africa do you pay to hold your government? How much in Singapore they pay to hold their government? Well, they still get a little bit from the government, which is not so bad. They still have a good welfare state. But our welfare state is being destroyed. And it's not because of immigrants. It has started long ago. It has started with Maastricht Treaty, where they intentionally started privatizing the welfare state and destroying it from its basis in order to open private clinics, in order to open insurance companies for your pensions and so on, in order to create market. They are destroying the whole welfare state is being destroyed everywhere in Europe. How many months do you have to wait for a dentist?
I'm fascinated that Typhon is so sure that people are not choosing between food and power, because the thing is, it's changing so fast. The inflation is so great. Well, I mean, we're talking about food prices in Australia going up 100% in 2 years.
Are they rioting in Australia? You are linking it to people getting into the streets and rioting. And we're talking about people rioting. I'm asking
Typhon, it is coming.
Yes,
Let me tell you, for the first time in 4 generations, Australians are facing a reality that is common to the third world. People in Australia have never gone hungry. They have never been unable to pay their bills, right? They have never been taxed into the ground, right?
Okay,
and it's a shock. It is shocking, and it's happening so fast.
The
inflation is so great.
But
if we're talking about
you
France,
need to make a difference.
We keep jumping the context.
Guys, let one talk. Well, otherwise,
hold on. We have someone new. Let him introduce himself. Hello.
No,
oh, he's gone.
Actually, he's not new. He came on before. He's P0712. He used to be.
So he changed his name.
You need to make a difference between demonstration and rioting.
Well, am I the only one that thinks that what's happening in France has a racial component to it?
Ethnic component.
I mean, that's just a word game.
No, that's no word game, because there is, again, we try to explain you. These are Mediterranean people. They look pretty much like a Southern French. This is bullshit. They just look different because the women wear veils sometimes, or dress like they dress like groups. Otherwise, you wouldn't recognize them. You are using the race just to make excuses. Please, it's ethnic and social class. They dress differently because modern, they're a bit different because they want to show that they want to create that difference. It's not on the race. It's not on their nose. It's not on their color of eyes. It's not in their color of skin. This is bullshit.
You're not having a conversation.
Oh, come on, David.
Okay, maybe we can.
People don't look different.
Okay, I think maybe the point Prada is making is that saying it's social class. We already talked earlier about how when there was a need for labor, a lot of different countries were bringing in people from other places, essentially forming a sort of underclass to fill the work needs. And now you could say that these. In many places, you're going to see that the underclass is going to be represented by like a different ethnicity. And so you can have a conflation of, or an open question as to what extent is this based off of simply like economics and a social class where it's an underclass, an underclass movement, or is there a self-identification where people kind of attach a sort of their identity against the other culture that's next to them. I think that's a fair question, but I think that these things are kind of like very intertwined. So we don't exactly see something like this. Imagine if in the U.S. we started having riots and demonstrations by like recent Mexican immigrants or something. And then the question would be, is it about a Mexican identity versus the American identity, or is it about a social underclass? That question is conflated once we've brought in, essentially having I say social underclass in the sense of like,
it's
poor
true.
population, not well integrated into the country,
but also generational.
Kind of brought in so that they can fill like jobs that no one else wants. That's So.
Well, you can give an example.
So to David's point, so real quick,
I lived
David,
in New York.
to your point,
You had
just
Jewish riots.
Look, they're just young people.
You had over police brutality. It was okay, like relatively Jews are from the wealthiest of the people, but in cases where there was police brutality against Hasidic Jews, there were Jewish riots, and the police came down and there were protests, and it was just Jews against the police. There was no other ethnic groups involved, but it wasn't economic in nature. It was about the police, Jews living in our ethnic area of New York, and the police coming in and enforcing things that the community didn't that they should have, and then there were riots. And like anyone who knows New York, this doesn't happen often, but
New
every
York
few
is not
years
Paris.
There's riots between Orthodox Jews and the police, and it's specifically over police brutality and nothing else. And it's purely ethnic because the only people rioting are Jews.
Yeah,
And,
were they all young Jews?
It happens in all neighborhoods, and it's only related to the issue of police and control of the area where there's some sort of enforcement of rules that the community doesn't think is being administered fairly or according to their ethnic or racial sympathies.